that's one of the accomplishments in life. And she taught at the tertiary level entrepreneurship. That's where her passion lies in. And not only does she teach entrepreneurship, but she actually does it. So she runs a company that actually helps with small business enterprises. And it's a very important theme because for me, the SMEs are the basis of economic development. And the work that she does with the youth there in terms of actually helping them grow and building in the disciplines of leadership and participation, and particularly with women who in the Philippines, I think quite a number of them are women. That would be one of the key things that she talks about. The other thing which we also will have a comment on, because Marina mentioned Islamic Islam here. In her case, of course, in the Philippines, we are talking about Christianity and the impact of Christianity on women and on leadership and on family life. That's another theme that we'll be touching on. And then finally, this very, very busy woman is actually completing her dissertation, right, for her PhD on corporate social performance. So it's about CSR as well. And she combines all these multifaceted jobs by being a mother of 4 children. I think the son is here. So you want to stand up and say hello and breathe out of your mouth? Yeah? So it's all about balancing act and also keeping a husband at the same time happy. So it's quite a challenge, right? That this idea of leadership among women is about multitasking, and she excels on that. Then let's move on to an even more fun afternoon, and I won't make it fun because after lunch we really have a few laughs. We have Dina here, and Kapal, this must be your creative idea. You actually have, Dr. Dina Rampal from the UK. She's a passion coach, meaning what? Sex and sexuality. So those of you, who are like British, they used to say, pardon the expression, being uptight, tight ass. Let your hair down. All right, and Dina here will share with us her insights into leadership and passion. And I said to her during the break that my understanding of sex and leadership was that either for the men like Clinton are very in high testosterone, or alternatively you are so dead tired you have no sex at all. So I think Dina is going to be sharing insights about passion and why that's important as part of leadership and the whole life experience and the fulfillment you get if you are into good sex. And she might share techniques with you after. And last but not least, I've got Aida here from Pakistan, the first woman to have been appointed on the board of the stock exchange there. So let's give her a special clap there. It's no small achievement that she's done this, and in Aida's case, not only has she achieved broached this whole notion of the stock exchange, but she also has a passion of entrepreneurship and working with the youth. So she combines, the hard-headed finance with the idea of youth development, and at the same time, really helping to build a whole new generation of green lighters in Pakistan. So Meredith, here's an example of really the green light, being placed in Pakistan and really having a kind of thorough play there. At the same time, we wanted to have a chat about governance, and particularly for me, given the current economic situation in the world where capitalism actually is being rethought, that would be something that Aida would be contributing. So we've got 3 quite distinctive areas to set up the discussion. So the first thing, let me start off with Eunice here. And Eunice, tell us a little bit about your passion in terms of how you see the development of SMEs contributing both to the uplifting of women in economic terms as well as in building skills of entrepreneurship.
All right, let me begin first by just giving you a background, and that is in the context of the Philippine society. A lot of children are educated to become employees. And if you ask a young person what he would like to become when you grow up, it's either that you'll be told that he wants to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or a nurse, but not really to become an entrepreneur. And another fact of the matter in the society is that women is part of the marginalized group in the sense that it's always the husband who is being viewed to bring home the food on the table. And so the women are basically just delegated to do the chores at home. But I think the landscape has already changed, and now the women are really taking a big part in the society's upbringing, as well as in the uplifting of the economic conditions of families. Although they are really just on the lower bottom, so to speak, they are not really that placed well in the corporate echelon. On the other hand, the perception that when you graduate, you're supposed to be part of the next big multinational is something we're trying to debunk as well. In that even early on in the education of a young person, we're already inculcating to them the value of entrepreneurship. So those are solutions, or if I may call it two-edged sword, in terms of giving importance to women and their role in both economic and family life, as well as starting from the very basic level, teaching the children the value of entrepreneurship, which formally is not something that people talk about. And my passion is in the area of education. So when you teach, I teach at the tertiary level, and when students are already at the tertiary level, it's very difficult because you can't do reverse engineering on the things that they already do. And so we realize that we have to start from their young age. And so rather than just teaching them the 3 R's, which is reading, writing, and arithmetic, we also teach them the 4 C's. 4 C's being creativity and innovation, the context, because we all come from different backgrounds, and to put a society in a compartment is very difficult. So we teach them creativity and innovation. We allow them to understand what is context, situation. We give them the content as much as we can. And finally, we allow them to develop a certain character that will allow them to embark on a journey which we call entrepreneurship.
Yes, and Lady Isla, you want to comment at this stage, because your passion is also in youth and entrepreneurship and kind of planning the plans of that.
Yes, certainly. It is a possible to give you a background of how the demographics of the society are. We are a population of about 200 million people, and more than 65% under the age of 35 years. And like Eunice mentioned, that every boy or girl graduating from a university or a school, mainly the dream is to work for a good multinational or work for a good organization, but there is very little willingness to take the risk and enter into the arena of entrepreneurship. And to begin with, I feel that it is not only a lack of taking risk, it is lack of awareness also. So I'm working on different initiatives. One of them being to encourage entrepreneurs and to essentially encourage young entrepreneurs, because we've got so many resources. Like this country of ours, it is rich in minerals, it is rich in agri, it is rich in all kinds of blessings that we could have in terms of having energy resources, etc. But in terms of the availability of jobs, that is still very limited. And one more thing, that we need to connect our youth with the youth in other countries. So these are some of the things that I'm working on apart from my professional association. So the idea is to encourage these people and make the best from this potential, and to grow economically, and not grow economically as a country, not in isolation, but to maximize the potential of the region and of the world. So it is about global connectivity also. And SMEs throughout the world, they are the real drivers of any economy and of the global economy also. Because one business that starts triggers a cycle of starting many other businesses. And in the process, what is happening is that multiples and multiples of jobs are being created. So this is essentially what we must start teaching our people, our children at a very early age. It must start at the primary level. There are wonderful programs like the Junior Achievement. There are programs in Middle East, like in India. What people do is that they teach basic business ethics to young students. They tell what does it take to start a business, what is that the customer demands. The customer demands quality, good price, ethics. What are the ways of doing business? What does it take to carry a product forward? How to market it? And entrepreneurs do not become entrepreneurs overnight. They need to have a combination. So if we really need to add value, we need to start this in the academic, as the academic front at a very early age. This is something that I feel is missing at our end, in my country at least, and we have realized this and we are working on this. And having said this, I mean, a lot of us come from a privileged background. We've had lots of opportunities available to us. So that doesn't make us, I mean, like super achievers, because we now have more responsibility to look after all the others and provide opportunity to people who did not get it. Like in the rural areas, I studied in the city. It doesn't make me much smarter than a kid who comes from a rural area. So we need to engage these people and bring them in the formal economic cycle. So entrepreneurship and business, it does not only belong to the elite, it does not only belong to people with resources, it belongs to everybody. And everybody must be allowed to put in their fair share and do well. So we're trying to engage people from different segments of the society and also from different age groups.
Pick up a couple of things that came through between the two of you, and I think that for me the key is about education at a very young age. And I'd like to throw this to the audience as well, for you to perhaps share your point of view about what's happening in your society, because we have a very diverse audience here. And for me, when you're looking at the greater picture, as you said, the multiplier effect of SMEs on the economy, the key challenge has always been, for instance, in the US right now, former President Obama is struggling with the job figures, right? Everybody is talking about the need for creating employment. So I think for the two of you, particularly, it would be nice to have some insights about your experience of really getting the SMEs working, and particularly in the rural area as well. Because for me, one of the key things is the transmigration. When the rural area is very poor, you get a lot of slum building cities. The question is, if you could actually build skills in the rural community, and you are actually applying technology to upgrade the kind of the agrarian economy, you can actually keep people in the communities where they are. There's a lot more life to that. So that you'd like to continue that, Ayla, on the rural part of the entrepreneurship and the impact on rural economy.
Certainly. In terms of the rural entrepreneurship or encouraging people in the rural areas, I think most of these people, they are already entrepreneurs. A farmer is an entrepreneur. A person running a tea shop is an entrepreneur. A person running a small workshop is an entrepreneur. Now, to add value to their business, we need to provide them with certain value added. Technology is one. We need to provide them with connectivity. What does it take to have a good enabling environment for entrepreneurship? To begin with, connectivity is very, very important. Connecting the right kind of people in the value chain who can deliver value to each other. Then after that, the role of technology is very, very essential. Just today in the morning, we saw these girls selling their products on eBay. They apparently were from a rural area in Malaysia, and they were able to connect with so many audience everywhere else. Then it also takes a great amount of training. That can be done through the formal education system. That can be done also through vocational training. It could be by teaching people small little skills, or training them in a particular field. Like people can be trained into learning plumbing, being in learning electric work. A person doesn't need to go to college. Yes, privileged ones can. We must support education right to a very high level, but at the end of the day, resources are limited. So we should do best with whatever we have. And connectivity is very, very essential. Like we need to make sure that the farmer growing his produce, the produce gets to the market. There has to be connectivity. There has to be infrastructure built for it. Now, this is where the role of the larger players come in. The role of the government. The government has to provide a facilitative environment. There are so many players in the private sector that is. So many corporations now take this as a responsibility of their CSR agenda, because if it's a happy growing world, everybody stands to benefit. So I think putting all these blocks together, these are all the building blocks. They are creating the structure and making sure that people who are excluded from the economic cycle or who are financially excluded, they come into this cycle and they are able to contribute and at the same time draw value out of this system.
I think it's, for me, it's beyond asking where you begin, but asking the question, how do you really begin? And formal education is valuable, but if you want to start from the very core, I think you have to go back to the way children are being raised. And so therefore it goes back to the value of family and the training that children get from their own families. Particularly, values like sense of responsibility, the sense of having a commitment, owning mistakes and learning from those mistakes. I think that's the beginning of everything that you do in your adult life. And it hits to the core because at the end of the day, the one who really has the big responsibility to achieve that are the women of the home, or the mothers. And so the learning that would have to begin from the very beginning would have to start from the home. For instance, let me give you a case in point. For a country that exports a lot of domestic helpers, just the Philippines, I run a household with no domestic help. And so I raised 4 children without a domestic help. And each of my children has this responsibility, and they know that if they do not do the work that is given to them, there will be consequences, like as simple as not washing the dishes on time would not allow us to eat on a clean plate, so to speak. And not keeping your bed in the morning would surprise you with a unmanaged bed at the end of the day. And we all want to arrive at a very good bed because we all wanted to sleep at the end of the day. But when you see your bed unmanaged, then that creates a whole new red signal for you. So it really begins on the responsibility that is inculcated, the sense of responsibility, the ownership of certain tasks, and the commitment to follow through a certain task or endeavor that you initiate will really begin at home. Otherwise, no amount of formal education, no amount of national teacher awardee as a lecturer is going to change that. Maybe it will create a little dent, but when they go back to their own homes and the whole cycle continues on, then we are not really arresting the problem at its root. So it has to be the whole change of perspective about how we as women manage, if you may call it, borrowing from the business education perspective, how you manage your own household and how you make sure that everything is in place despite the humdrums of daily life. I know that women tend to be more busy because we take care of 100 different things in a day. I would always tell my husband that your problem is really the workplace, the wife gets to be concerned in a lot of things, but that's very basic. The family as a training ground of whatever good people will be created in the future is something that has to be emphasized in all talks and in all discussions, not only among women but also, of course, with the able company of women.
Thank you very much. Now that brings us to a nice inclusion here for Venus, because when we are talking about connectivity and about starting from the home, tell us where you see sex education first, and what the role of sex education and parenting and role modeling in terms of sexual relations, add for having a happier, more balanced, wholesome child.
Well, I want to pick up on something you said, which is that in a happy world, everyone benefits. And actually, I think that's it. In a happy world, everyone benefits. And can you hear me?
Better now.
Yeah? So I was picking up on what Isla had said, that in a happy world, everyone benefits. And I think that that's sort of the crux of the matter. Our relationship with our own body is the most intimate relationship we'll ever have, and it's also the only truly lifelong relationship we'll ever have. So for me, it all starts with the body, because the way that we relate to our own flesh is the way that we will relate to other people and to the rest of the world. In terms of educating young people, I think it's about teaching and modelling how to honour our own body. There's a lot of shame around intimacy still, all over the world. I live in the UK. I was born and brought up in London. I'm very proudly a Londoner. And yet, when I work with my clients every day, I still see a lot of shame about the body. And shame is not conducive to a happy world. When we're in shame, the body contracts, our emotions contract, the mind is confused, and lots of red lights go off. So for me, that would be the thing. It's about how do we honour the flesh and stop seeing it as something sinful. It's interesting, when we were talking over lunch, you asked me, you mentioned religion, and I say I don't really do religion, but I think that very, very deep-rooted are a lot of beliefs, but a lot of which do come from religion or old myths and old ways of thinking, which mire the body and intimacy in shame. And this, I think, is something we need to fundamentally change. So actually, I want to see us writing new fairy tales, new myths, so that we have a new cosmology. I think I was very, very lucky as a child, because I started training in classical Indian dance when I was 7. And it was only the other day, actually, that someone pointed out to me that I had my cosmology in place very young because of that dance training. And it was a cosmology that was very, very comfortable in my body, and therefore very comfortable with the world around me. So I think that would stand children in very good stead.
Which brings us back to, I think, the 4 C's that you mentioned, and I want to pick up a thread there about character, right? And I think this is one of the key things that the world is actually struggling with, particularly when you're looking at the broader economics and you're looking at the financial sector. So this question actually applies to all 3 of you. In terms of, character building, for instance, the role of education. Now, in Singapore, the Ministry of Education has recognized that there is a gap, right, in terms of moral education. And the impetus came because there were recent reports about China, where a child was dead in the street and people kind of walked past. So then the whole, question came up. Is there such a thing? Are we conscious what's going to happen, what's happening in society? How are people actually relating to situations like that? And I suppose if you have all this poverty going on and people just dying all over the place, you get desensitized to all that.